Both Dr. Hamlin and myself, we want to thank everybody for joining us today, both here in the boardroom and for our folks that are at their schools administering and doing the things they need to do at home base. We are simulcasting this live feed articulation meeting today.
Okay.
Hi.
Courtney Saunders or Courtney Rose are here.
Yes.
Dropped your phone. You're welcome.
Thank you, Alan. Everybody at home said thank you as well. So a lot of important information. The tempo is going to be rapid today, and for that we appreciate and want to express our gratitude for your attention. We have built-in business breaks to take care of email and things like that, but during the presentation we'd really appreciate all of your time and attention. At this point I'd like to welcome Ms. Batten and Dr. Lucarelli to bring greetings and to get us kicked off.
Good morning, welcome. It's great to see all of you this morning. Thanks for being here. On behalf of my partner in OSP, we are grateful for the time that we have with you today. We are certainly also very appreciative to not only our central office-based teams, but our school-based teams. You have many folks in your schools that have been part of this partnership over the last probably 18 to 24 months on various initiatives that we are going to share with you today. So it really is evidence of our rigorous program that we are developing that is student-centered and future-focused and truly aligns with our mission and vision that we are preparing students to be prepared for community engagement, career entry, and also college, if that is in their pathway. So on behalf of our team, we want to say thank you and are certainly excited about the relationships that are developing through this partnership.
So welcome. It takes everyone to make this happen. So we appreciate that you're here this morning. To Ms. Batten's point, I just want to read a statement from our values to highlight why we're here today. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but when you go under Ready, Set, Launch, our values, what we value clearly states, before exiting high school, students will have uncovered and explored their many talents and passions, interacted with professionals from career fields in which they have interest, understood how to put their talents and skills to use in multiple career areas, participated in professional internships with community or industry members, and planned with college or career counselors, and met all Maryland high school graduation requirements. There's much more there, but that's really the crux of why we're here today. So I would ask, as you plan programs and you schedule for your students, always keep in mind that piece. And how are we igniting students' interest and the experience that they're having with us day to day and the love of school? Because that's going to be really critical. So as you schedule, think about those pieces rather than what works mechanically. I know everyone understands what I'm saying. So I appreciate that. And with that, Ms. Batten and I would like to welcome Dr. McMahon. Thank you.
So, thank you. I'm going to use a mic only because if I move, then I'm good. What I want to talk about today are two things that are going to be different at the high school level. And therefore, if you're one of the middle school folks sitting here, it'll be different for your kids very soon. So, the first one are these things called passion courses. So if you've read any of the recent literature all over the world, people are talking about igniting passion. And as Dr. Lucarelli just said, what happens if that were the actual focus? So from Nelson Mandela's point of view, there's no passion to be found playing small, settling for a life that is less than the one you're capable of living. And I think that's really what we ought to be telling kids. They need to get in the game, in the big game, not the get out of high school game. Too many times I've been someplace, not in this school system, anywhere in the country, and people say, we need to get them out of high school. And while I get it, that our job is to get them across the stage, that's really not our core job. Our core job is to get them in the game, the whole game of life, so they have the skills they need to really play and play to win for the rest of their life. So with that, this piece about passion. So I've been talking about these passion courses. This is not something that we've taken lightly or that we dreamed up yesterday. This is 2.5 years of work. And I have to thank IDD because they've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting with respect to, you would think, if you took a semester course and you cut it in half, you'd get 2.25, you get 2, TWL, 0.25, or quarter credit classes. And that would be easy. And it's not. So the good news is they figured it all out. The idea of these courses initially is that we leverage the passion of the teacher. So if we leverage the passion of the teacher, and they literally, whether they're a kid magnet, or whether they have an amazing story to tell, or whether they have a passion that kids don't even know about. They might be a social studies teacher that was a political science major. They never get to teach political science, but now they might. They may be an art teacher who loves the notion of story, but they don't really have a place for that in the regular core art curriculum. But now they might. So the idea of these passion courses, quarter credit courses that last 9 weeks, very short time, kids get a chance to go deep into an idea that maybe they would never see anywhere else with a person, the teacher, who's super passionate about that. If we do that, then the teacher captures the student interest, and then the student may find their passion in this. Tricky piece. It's all about the teacher. Even though we want it to all be about the student, it has to all be about the teacher. So when you see today, Dr. Hamlin uncovers all these passion courses that we've put there for different reasons, you may be overwhelmed saying, oh my gosh, this is a scheduling nightmare. Because if you're a scheduler in the room and I say 9-week credits, 9-week courses, that just adds to the craziness. And the answer is nope, nope. There's a lot of choice in the passion courses because we wouldn't expect any high school to teach them all. Because it's hard for us to believe that you would have the faculty passionate in those areas. So when we say it's all about the teacher, it really is. If you have a teacher that says, oh my gosh, I read those passion courses, I want to teach this one, that's the teacher. And if you go up to somebody and you say, what do you think about this one? They go, please don't pick them. Don't pick them, please. Because it'll turn into the most horrible course with assessment driving everything. And please don't do that. And I say that really from the bottom of my heart. These passion courses are teetering on success. And it's all about the teacher who gets what the point of the course is. And if they don't get it and they come at it from a very linear fashion with their interest kind of lost, we will kill the idea before it's off the ground. So think about it. We're all going to do it. Some of you may do it with just toes in the water, and some of you may dive in because you've got the people on the faculty. Doesn't matter which way you go. This is not an issue where every passion course taught at Meade has to be taught at Arundel, has to be taught at Broadneck. Not an issue. You'll get what you get if you're a student based on the teachers in your building. If you're thinking about scheduling, there are easy ways, there are hard ways, there are cool ways. The only thing I'll say is Dr. Hamlin's going to share all that with you later. And I just need you to know, don't go for the simple way of scheduling at the expense of the cool notion of kids exploring ideas. Because if you hook them together and you force kids to pick what they don't want because the courses are hooked together, you missed it, right? So you'll see, stay open-minded about this. This is cool, this is not hard, and you can get there in phases over years. You don't have to dive in full tilt boogie in the first year. Cool? Awesome. Next, over the last year to 2 years, we've been talking a lot about civility. And you have been in schools where there's been a lot of challenges. Maybe you had one child with some challenges. Maybe you had many. Maybe you've had faculty with challenges. We're talking about language choices, how people treat one another, how they speak to one another, how families talk to one another, how they treat one another. Whatever the case may be, over the past year or so, we've been talking about this idea of a global citizenship course. And then at Arundel, they piloted a global citizenship course and are teaching it right now. And we took a look at it, and Dr. Arlato said, I really want this for our 9th graders. I really want this because I think foundationally, we will help them think about the world differently. And we will set standards for them about how we treat one another inside this school. So when we were talking about it, it became quite clear that in signature classes, many of the tenets of teamwork, collaboration, understanding who the people are in your classroom, relying on them, learning their differences and their strengths and their similarities, that was part of what we were doing in many ways anyhow. And so when Dr. Arlato said we need to do this, we decided we are going to put it inside signature. All of you do signature in a very different way from each other. Some, you all have opportunities for signature exploration courses in your school, and they're all done a little differently based on your stakeholder team. Still good. So what we're proposing is this is going to become part of signature exploration. That's what it's going to become part of, except it's going to have its own name, Global Citizenship, but it will be part of that, and it will be contextualized with your own signature. Now, if you're an early adopter, you've already had your feet in the water. A few schools already have had a World Cafe. They've already been involved. They've already had a team involved in this. Life is good. If this is the first time, or maybe the second time you're even hearing about that, no worries. This is not on you. This is on us. If you want to be involved and help contextualize the global citizenship core that we have with your signature, Mary Talar and her team of signature folks are going to be all over that with you. She has a plan that starts now and goes throughout the spring. And there is not a worry to that. If you're sitting at a school with a magnet and you're saying, well, Dr. Mann, have you seen the magnet list? Do you understand there's no room for 9th grade for a global citizenship class? Now there is. We worked that out already. We'll help you understand what we're putting in place. So life is good for all of that. So where does the rubber meet the road with all of you? It meets it in scheduling. So all of a sudden, let's take the biggest schools, right? 400 or 500 9th graders need to have this course. One semester or the other, doesn't matter. So that's a lot of sections. So let's say it's 20 sections. Sorry. Let's say it's 20 sections. Who's not teaching if we're teaching this? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. And it's probably PE, art, music, or tech ed, right? So when you consider who's going to teach this course, at the very bottom line, you have to consider people who would get it. Don't take the curmudgeon from another planet and make them the global citizenship teacher, right? Because it isn't going to work. But think first about the teachers who may actually no longer be teaching 9th graders for 2 semesters. Because if you have any of those people that would make global citizenship teachers, that's who you have to think of first. And then, of course, you need to pick the right people from all the various departments. And hopefully you're not picking any one person to teach most of the sections, 1, 2, or 3 people. You really do want to spread it out a bit if you can. Because what we want to do also, while we're helping students, we want to help teachers. Because what we know is students do what's modeled. And so part of global citizenship is also helping the whole environment be whatever's going on in this 9th grade class, so they see it throughout the school, right? So that's kind of cool. This may freak you out, but please don't let it freak you out. Because again, the course you can be as involved in as you want to be. If you have teachers that would be amazing, that want to be part of the build, great. Let Mary Talar know. If you have outside stakeholders on your ICST teams, they should play. They should play. Because global citizenship contextualized is better than global citizenship with no context, right? So I'm not worried about this one at all, and I don't think any of my colleagues are. This is actually very cool and needed. So with that, those are the two major changes. We're excited about both of them. They have major potential. And as you go through the day, you'll see help sheets in the folders, and Dr. Hamlin and I know and his team are going to be all over helping you with that. But my message really is, thank you for doing what you do every day, because you make it able for kids to have a great experience in the county school system. That's a big deal, and I hope you feel good about that. I hope you pat yourself on the back when you go home every once in a while, because the days are hard, but because you show up every day and you do what you do, our kids have amazing lives. So this is just another way to move them down on the track a little further. Thank you.
Very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Hamlin. I work in the Office of Student Data, and it's great to see a packed room. This is a hot ticket this morning. Thank you again to Dr. McMahon for bringing greetings. I would also be remiss if I didn't welcome Ms. Jackson for being here this morning, and Ms. Talar. Thank you very much for being here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some meeting logistics. Some housekeeping items to get out of the way first. What's at your table? There's materials at your table. There's some snacks. There should be a folder. Depending on your level, there might be some middle school specific documents there. There should be drafts of both the middle school and high school program of study. We have extra copies if you need some throughout the course of the day. So please don't hesitate to come up and ask either Mr. Lee or myself. We can get you anything that you need. Restrooms in the lobby, if you haven't been here before, over to my left. Please don't use the door to my right, or this party will be over pretty quickly. Okay, alarms will go off. And please make sure that you've signed in over here at the table by the door as well. If you're not on the list, or if you have more people than the spaces are allotted by, just write your name at the bottom, please. So our outcomes this morning are to review the major updates to both the middle and high school programs of study. We're going to have lots of guests in front of you from curriculum and instruction, instructional data division, and many other offices. We're going to outline the articulation process for the 1920 academic year. And as many of you know, you've been in trainings for Power School. We're going to continue to update training for school counselors and our schedulers every month. We're going to be utilizing the program of study at aacps.org email inbox to field questions throughout the day and to respond to those questions over the next several days. We're going to take the questions and compile a frequently asked questions document, and we will publish that on the Power School help site on the intranet. For those of you who are watching, or those of you who'd like to follow along with on your computer, there are ways to access resources from today's meeting, both today and after you leave. If you go to the intranet, from the applications list, you'll see the hot links. The SMS and Power Teacher help site is along the left-hand side. From there, you'll find the resources section and expand the articulation menu. And there will be, there's digital archive of all of the documents that are in your folder, as well as anything that will be updated in the days to come. So just a note about the text you'll see in the draft programs of study. Red text with a strike through means it's being deleted from the booklet for the 1920 school year. Blue text is new or additional coursework or information, both in the courses section but also in the front introductory sections. If you see text that has green with a line through it, that means it has been moved from where it's been stricken. And when you see it just green, that means that's where its final destination is. So interpreting the course descriptions can be a little complicated. So just a little bit of a note about what you're seeing. At the course title level, you'll see a course identification number. Sometimes it's 3 digits, sometimes it's 6 digits, depending on how specific we need to get to differentiate the course. You'll see the course title as it's found in the student information system. And to the far right, you'll see the potential credits for a course. And there may be some additional information there. If you see a slash, it means it's a year-long course, or it can be taken more than one semester. If there is no slash, it can be taken only once, and it is only a semester-long course. Towards the bottom of the course description, you might see some black boxes indicating the program meets a career and technology education requirement, is NCAA eligible, or is an advanced tech course, or it's approved for dual credit. Now, something you may see missing this year, there were some numbers that didn't mean a lot to people in the bottom right corner. 5 digits and a slash and 4 more digits. Those are our beloved SCED codes. Those are national and state level codes that really no one at the school level needs to know about, so we decided to remove them. They've been updated frequently, and it's just a little bit more trouble than it's worth keeping up with it, quite frankly. All right, so now Skip is going to come up and talk to you about the updates to the middle school scheduling model.
Thank you, Kevin. So we're going to take our attention by grade bands, and so the middle school folks, you'll have an opportunity to hear some presentations in succession, and then we'll move on to the high school in a similar order. It's done alphabetically by the program of study with the coordinators. So if I could get Buffy to come on up and stage, that'd be great. Some major things have changed. Major revisions have changed based on the middle school scheduling committee's presentation, and we wanted to make that as simple as possible in terms of helping you understand what those changes are. The decisions were from a 60-day meeting schedule. Would courses go to a full year, meaning 90 days on an 8A, B-day schedule, or would they be reduced to a 45-day schedule for a semester? And so what we've done is taken the entire program of study and parsed it out. And middle school folks, it's in your folders on your tables. All of the Encore courses are listed, and the disposition of those courses are highlighted so that you can kind of get a feel for what the result of those decisions mean for your buildings. Our content coordinators are in the process of modifying the curriculum to meet that new change, so that come September of 2019, all of those documents will be updated and be available for your teachers in your building. The screen capture behind me is just an example of what we did. It gives you the full course name, the content office, the course name, the course code, and then what impact the decision of the 8A, B-day schedule had, and what we would be doing with that information. All of the content coordinators and I have met regarding these changes, and as I mentioned, we are in the process of either condensing the information or expanding it where it's necessary. We're going to, as I mentioned earlier, be moving through the middle school program of study first. Does anybody need additional copies? We'd be happy to give you them if you don't have them. And with no further delay, I'd like to introduce Buffy Jordan from the middle school English Language Arts office.
Thank you, Skip. And good morning, everyone. I'm Buffy Jordan from Middle School Reading Language Arts, and I just have a few things to go over for Middle School Language Arts. The exciting information is we are in the process of reviewing materials of instruction, and in the STA adoption cycle. We haven't had new materials for a number of years. 2008 is the last time, so we're very excited with what's out there. We will continue to have those material documents rewritten over the summer to align with whatever is adopted. But the scheduling will not change for middle school reading language arts. You still will put your students in classes in the same way, but the curricular documents will be aligned to the new materials. And as soon as they are approved, we'll begin doing that. We will still continue to have one document per grade with the differentiation within that document. We will have the options for our advanced study students, the Dolly group, and we will have those options for guided reading within the one document, because we know that our middle school students really haven't all progressed to what their talents are in middle school. They're still discovering if they're gifted in reading, writing, speaking, or listening, so we will keep that one document so the teachers have the option of using advanced or doing our scaffolding as needed. The other exciting part that you know about is the implementation of interventions, and it will be daily for grades 6 and 7 and 8AB day for grade 8. We're quite excited about that because this really allows us to do the interventions as they were designed and researched, and the idea is that if we really do an intensive implementation in grades 6 and 7, we'll have fewer students who need interventions as they go through middle school. So that is what our plan is for that. And the 3 interventions that are the available programs, we have the Access to Reading, which is the same as it was. That's our corrective reading program with its different levels. That's our decoding. Read to Achieve is our comprehension program, and then the Tier 3 is Wilson at this point. So that's all I have to say. I'd like to introduce, if there are no questions, introduce Nicole Howard for mathematics. Yeah. Yes, that's not an intervention, that's a support course, but that's still available, yes. Okay. Okay, all right.
Good morning, everybody. So there are, it's a new course this year. It's replacing the PAM course. It's called Computational Thinking Around Numeracy. We're finding that there's a gap in middle school with, you know, computation, basic facts, and building those areas where they need help with the conceptual understanding, but they're missing some of the basics before that. So this new course is replacing the performance and math course. Its target population will be students who need additional support around number sense and necessary computational thinking. We will start, once we write the course, we will give you guidelines as to, based on scores and a pre-assessment, who would be ideal for the course. It's going to run all year on either an A-day schedule or a B-day schedule. And there's going to be a range of strategies and approaches, but it is going to be research-based and a true math intervention course, so it's going to be scripted and guided for the teacher. The other change that's not on here, but just to bring to your attention, in the actual program of study, it's nothing new, it's just called out, and it actually says prerequisite as part of the sequence for certain courses on the accelerated pathway. And with that, thank you. I didn't introduce Shelley.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Shelley Hartford. I'm the coordinator for the English Language Acquisition Program, more fondly known as the Isaw program. There are no substantive changes to our program this year from last year. However, I did have a lot of questions because we do have such a growing enrollment of English learners in the middle school, and so I just wanted to review what the course offerings are in the middle schools. So what we offer for our students who are in the beginning phases of English language development are the Isaw 1 and 2 courses, which are proficiency level based. Those are for students with WIDA scores below a 3. And they can be offered daily in place of the English Language Arts course for English learners. The focus of those is on the introduction to English and those really initial mastery of the language. We recommend that in addition to the grade level ESOL courses, and of course that would be as staffing permits, which we all know is where the rubber meets the road in terms of scheduling for ESOL. So if you are able to schedule those courses on a daily basis for your English learners, we strongly encourage you to do so. ESOL grades 6, 7, and 8 are the required courses for all English learners. Those courses were written last summer, and the curriculum is directly aligned to the content areas of language arts, social studies, science, and mathematics for English learners. So we draw off of that core curriculum and provide the language development support. In those courses, there's a focus on literacy development for English learners. As you know, many of our students in middle school are actually in the advanced stages of language development, and so they really need additional support with reading. And so we offer that through those ESOL 6, 7, and 8 courses. Those are offered on an A-Day, B-Day basis. So if you're already on an A-Day, B-Day schedule, there should really be no change. Those of you with the ABC, it's been complicated this year, but it will be easier next year with that AB. But all of your English learners need to either be in grade 6, grade 7, or grade 8, and then they can also be in 1 and 2 if your staffing permits that. That's all I have for middle school. Thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce Christiana Walsh, who's the coordinator of health and PE and dance.
Good morning, everyone. So a few updates for health and physical education at the middle school level. As you know, this year we separated health and physical education into kind of 2 different sections because we needed to report it to the state by the appropriate SCED code. So now health lives separately in our program of study. It also highlights the various concepts and skills that are addressed at each of the different grade levels. More information on how health will be scheduled will be forthcoming at the upcoming middle school scheduling meetings. In physical education, Team Approach to Sport is now going to be offered on a semesterized format. Students can take this course in the fall and the spring, or the fall or the spring. It is only going to be offered to 7th and 8th grade students, as it was originally designed as an advanced course, and we know our 6th graders really need that time to kind of adapt to the different model in middle school. So we are hoping that our 6th graders can adapt to middle school physical education and then have the opportunity to take that advanced course in the 7th and 8th grade levels. And now I'd like to welcome Jean Summers from World Languages.
Good morning, beautiful people. How are we? We get a round of applause for Christiana. She was super nervous to come up here. I know I'm totally throwing her under the bus, but she leans over. She's like, I'm so nervous. So it's not often that you come into a job and you are asked, so what is the dream for your department? Thank you. I apparently don't know how to do that. And that's exactly what happened. Skip came to me and said, hey, listen, we've got this whole group going about middle school schedulings, and where does world language fit into that? What's your dream? So that is exactly what happened. All of the research throughout our country and throughout the world indicates that language learning happens best at younger ages. Language acquisition needs to happen in an immersive environment, and so our society in the United States, the way we've kind of fixed that is we've created these special schools, these immersion schools, which some of my nephews have gone to in Minnesota, of all places. Seems to be a mecca of languages. How that happened, no idea. But that's been our fix, and so to look at the comprehensive schools and say, what do we need to do? How are we going to better prepare students to be active on the global stage? Is we need to get them some language earlier and earlier. So we're working on some other things, but the plan at this point is in starting them in 6th grade with levels 1A, 1B, and 7th grade, so that they're in level 2 by 8th grade. The earlier, the better. AP has always been our goal, and now that we have what is known as the Seal of Biliteracy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes when I'm addressing the high school stuff, but now that we have adopted the Seal of Biliteracy, we need students to be taking the AP and IB tests. Well, they can't take the IB test any earlier, but AP if they can by junior year. And also, again, it's just to encourage them to be proficient in the language and not just to know about the language, which that started about 6 years ago when we changed curriculum and the ways that we teach language in Anne Arundel County. So the earlier the better. This is the recommended version. Schools that have other programs already running who have already been kind of doing this, you're making no changes. The MYP schools you're already getting, the goal is level 2 by 8th grade. And if we have any questions about how to get there, and if you have some specific questions, please feel free to invite me out. I'd be happy to sit with you and your team. Thank you. And I am going to introduce Mr. Kevin Hamlin.
Thank you, sir. So that's the end of our middle school updates, and I would just like, again, to plug, this would be a great time to send an email to programofstudy@aacps.org with your questions. We're going to get into the high school booklet now, but before we do, I'm going to ask Skip to come back up and address prerequisites.
So consistent with the movement of the presentation today, if I could have my high school folks turn to page 10 of their program of study. You'll find some information at the top of that page that's in addition, referencing Dr. Hamlin's comments earlier about the color coding. Oftentimes, my friends in the Office of School Counseling, even some administrators are looking for that nugget, that piece of information that they can steer to a parent, that they can give on their own behalf, just a resource. And having heard that for the past couple of years, we developed the passage that's on page 10 now for you to use as a support mechanism and a clarifier on some of the course placement options that your students will engage upon and consider. We also know that our coordinators have found examples where students are struggling in their work for being placed in a course for which they are not prepared. And I'm not talking about productive struggle here. I'm talking about being in a course where their prerequisite skill is not in place and they've struggled significantly. So we're really asking this year that those prerequisites that appear within the course description in the program of study are adhered to. You're going to hear from some of the other coordinators in their presentations today making reference to that, and you already heard from Nicole regarding middle school the accelerated pathways for mathematics. So thank you for that. Okay, we're going to turn it up and start with visual arts. Mr. Christopher Whitehead presenting on behalf of Eleni Dykstra.
Hello. So as Skip was saying a little bit about the prerequisites, the only change we have for high school that I want to bring up is we have our Foundations of Art course, which we've always had, but we just redid the curriculum this last summer. It's a very exciting, contemporary, cool curriculum to try and hook students into the visual arts. But what I need to say, first of all, is that this is very much a prerequisite for any other level 1 visual arts course. So a student should not be taking 2D, 3D, or photography until they have taken the Foundations of Art course. So if you look in your program of study in the art section, this language has actually been added about the prereq to this course. And what we've added in there, language-wise, is that there's a rubric if for some reason a student does need to skip foundations. For example, they're coming from a different school district and they had a ton of art courses but not a specific foundations course, and we feel, or they feel, they can test out of Foundations of Art. It's required that they actually meet with the department chair from that high school and they have a portfolio review. So in the portfolio review, they have to provide 3 pieces of artwork, and those are going to be assessed by, it has to be the visual arts department chair. They have to use the new rubric, which I do have a copy of if anybody needs to see it. So the department chairs will know that rubric, and they have to use that rubric, and they're looking at their usage of the visual art elements and the design principles and craftsmanship. If they get a score of at least 5 out of 8 on the rubric, they can skip Foundations of Art and go into a level 1 course. But again, if they do that, that does not mean the Foundations of Art course, if you skip it, does not count as your fine arts credit for graduation. You don't get a credit and you don't get a grade. But it does allow you to go into a level 1 art course, but you have to do that exemption rubric otherwise. Anybody attempting to test out and not approved by the graduate or by the department chair must take the Foundations of Art course before taking a level 1 course. And that's our only change for high school visual arts, and I'd like to introduce Christiana Walsh.
Hello again. Thank you. A few updates for high school dance. We have 2 new courses that we're offering and now appear in the program of study. Unified Dance and Leadership was approved late June of last year, and we are actually offering it at 2 of our high schools, Broadneck High School and Meade High School. We are hoping that it will expand to all of our high schools, but this course will allow students with and without disabilities to focus on beginning levels of dance technique and creative movement in a safe, collaborative, and cooperative environment, allowing full inclusion for all students. So this is a great course for your students in ACC, and there also need to be that general population in there as well. The purpose of the course is to really combine both our students with and without disabilities in an inclusive environment where all can be successful and comfortable. We also will be offering Insta-Dance as one of our passion courses, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that later, so I'll save that speech for then. I am now going to introduce Shelley Hartford with the English Language Acquisition Office.
So if you can pronounce the title of my office without stumbling on the word acquisition, you can exit from Isaw. I wish. So in high school, we have a wide variety of difference across the county in terms of what ESOL looks like, from an Annapolis high school where we offer all the courses to the hundreds of English learners, to a Chesapeake where we have a couple of kids with a teacher that visits them once or twice a week. And so you really have to look at our program and think about in terms of what your numbers are and what your staffing is and how to make it work best to meet the needs of ELs. But English learners must be enrolled in an English language acquisition course that is part of the federal requirement for our program. So please make sure that you know who your English learners are. It's very easy to identify them through Performance Matters. It's not a mystical list. It's at your fingertips. So if you don't know who they are, you can find your English learners in Performance Matters. Once you identify them, they need to be placed into ESOL 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Those placements initially are based on proficiency level. That's the score that the students receive on the WIDA Access in the prior year. That's initial placement. That's when they're entering your school, either coming from another country or when they're entering your school as a 9th grader. Once they're in our program, they then are placed based on credit as a continuing placement. So let's say they place into ESOL 3 as a 9th grader based on their access score, then they earn credit for the 3 course, then they would go to 4. Now, if you have a student who's phenomenally gifted in language learning, they come in as a 2, they do really well, their score is high, they can jump a level and go up to 4. We always want to be moving students forward in terms of challenging them. We should never be putting students backwards in proficiency level for any reason. Students who are enrolled in an ESOL course, that course, and you'll see some language this year for the first time in the book around how our course credits are given. So there's some clarity there. That's something we got a lot of questions about, and there have been various memos over the year. So I consolidated a lot of that information into the book, so it's at your fingertips. ESOL courses may count as either 2 English credits, 2 World Classical Language credits, or 2 elective credits. So you can combine those 4 years of ESOL in a variety of ways to help students meet graduation requirements. That said, we have a strong partnership and a shared philosophy with Mr. Summers' program of World Classical Language that we do want our students to continue their literacy development in the native language when possible. So we still continue to recommend that English learners go into those higher levels, particularly of our Spanish speakers, so they can continue to develop literacy in both classes, because many of our students are those same students who will be eligible for the seal of biliteracy that Jean's going to be speaking about. So just because the ESOL can count as a WCL doesn't mean our kids should never be in WCL. We want to continuously be challenging and pushing them forward. The optional ESOL courses, and this is really something that comes down to staffing at our larger schools, our schools with larger EL populations. We will be offering, once again, the ESOL newcomer course. That was a course that we had. It was taken off the books. We're putting it back in. That will allow for students who we call SIFE, students with interrupted formal education, to have some additional support in basic academic and literacy development in addition to ESOL 1. So you can run ESOL 1 and ESOL newcomer concurrently for those students who really, I'm talking about kids that maybe went through grade 2 in El Salvador, were working, were out of school for a long time, and now are entering in at the high school level. They're going to need a little extra support, which is why we're bringing back newcomer. ESOL Social Studies is a content-based language development course. It introduces the initial concepts and vocabulary of social studies. That's an optional course, but our students still require all 3 social studies courses for graduation. Transitional Math is another optional course that must be taught by a certified math teacher. Your ESOL teacher should not be teaching your transitional math. You're not going to see good results. They're great teachers, but they're not math teachers. So if you offer transitional, make sure that you're putting your English learners with a highly qualified math teacher. Sheltered content courses is something I get a lot of questions about. That is a school-based decision. If you believe that you have an instructor who has had some training in working with English learners, who has maybe some skills, bilingual skills, who has a high interest in working with this population and is highly motivated to provide a rigorous environment for our English learners, then that's the teacher that you would choose for the sheltered content courses. Please don't use sheltered content courses to warehouse or to segregate your English learners. That's not the purpose of those courses. If you do offer sheltered content courses, I suggest that you reach out to my office early so that we can make contact with your selected teacher and begin to offer them the training and the support that they need over the summer before they find themselves in a course. It's very, very difficult for a teacher that doesn't have a background in language development to walk into a class of 30 English learners and teach them about the fundamental concepts of U.S. government. And that's what some of our teachers are tasked with doing. So we need to make sure that we work jointly to provide the optimal supports for any teacher who's teaching a sheltered course. Once again, any of those optionals are all depending on your staffing considerations. You're welcome, if you have the staffing available, to partner your ESOL teachers as co-teachers in your content courses. That's a practice that we found is very successful. But it all comes down to strategic scheduling, knowing your learners, knowing your teachers, and just making sure that you're meeting those minimal requirements that every English learner does have at least one course with an ESOL teacher. Thank you so much.
Okay, back up again. So now we're going to talk about some updates in health education, just some simple language updates to really bring the focus to emphasize our shift to comprehensive skill-based health education, where students learn to apply the health-enhancing skills in hopes to kind of choose those better healthy decisions. So just a change in language there. In physical education, we have a couple updates. A new course to Unified Physical Education and Leadership, again, was approved last June. It is offered in 4 of our high schools, Old Mill, Broadneck, Annapolis, and Chesapeake. It has been met with great success. This course is, again, designed for students with and without disabilities to help them gain knowledge, experience, and skills in recreational sports and leisure activities. This course will offer all students, again, an opportunity to practice in skill development and wellness and leadership activities. So this is another one of those courses that's for your ACC students and your general population students, because it's really supposed to be a creative for an inclusive environment. It's been amazing, so hopefully all of our high schools will offer it in the future. Sunsetting courses, we are no longer going to be offering Foundations of Gymnastics or Gymnastics 2 through 4. We only were offering that at Arundel High School and have convinced them to say goodbye. We are also no longer offering adapted physical education because we now have the new course, Unified Physical Education and Leadership. One other language update is our the physical education aide is now going to be the health, physical education, and dance department aide, because our department chairs service all 3 of those content areas. And now, Jean Summers, once again, World Languages.
Oh, look at you. Sweet. So, hi again. We do not have any major changes to high school. We're not introducing Latvian, Tagalog, or the Urdu languages, so you can rest assured that we're okay there. We are, however, finally, when I came into the office in January, one of the things that was sitting on my desk was this seal of biliteracy. So the seal of biliteracy has been happening for 20 years in California. And it recognizes people who have some proficiency in 2 languages. And they prove that by passing standardized testing. So they've met the standardized test of the PARC English 10. And then they show some proficiency in another language. It could be a second or a third language. But they then get this seal of biliteracy that they can then put on their applications. In our county, it does not actually go on the diploma. Some school districts, they put an actual seal on the diploma. We are working, fingers crossed, that we will be able to get it on their transcripts. Little nudge, that it will actually show when they get their official transcripts that they have earned the seal of biliteracy. Speaking to something that Shelley just said about those upper level language courses, most of us took language courses when it was vocabulary lists and verb charts, and we could conjugate the heck out of a verb all day long. But we didn't have the opportunity to communicate in a language, and that is the expectation in our upper level classes. Even in our lower level classes, the expectation to communicate is there. So by the time they're in levels 4 and AP, they are writing persuasively. They're doing expository writing. They're having to debate. They have to do phone interviews, right? Where someone calls them. How has anybody ever had to try and do another language on the phone when you have no visual cues, nobody's giving you anything, but you're simply listening? That is a really difficult skill, and that is what we're asking our kids to do. So those ELL kids, when they get into those upper levels, they may have never had the chance to write persuasively in their native tongue. This is their opportunity. They're going to learn those skills, and they're going to then take that into the workforce. So we really do want to keep them there if it works and if it fits and if they have a desire. It is not a holding place. It is not, oh, great, you already speak the language, go take this class. It is not easy. Again, they're having to do some challenging stuff. But what we want to see is an increase in the number of our students who have this seal of biliteracy. The state of Maryland finally adopted it 3 years ago. We just got on board this past year, and we had over 100 students qualify throughout the county. My personal goal is to at least increase that by 25% by the time we get through this school year. And what happens is we don't get their AP scores back until the summertime, right? So kids have now graduated and gone on, and then we send them this certificate, or we catch the ones who might have taken it in their junior year. So back up to the middle school where we're getting kids into level 2 by their 8th grade year, we can get them to AP by their 11th grade years. They can have that seal of biliteracy in their pocket on their applications for colleges in their junior years. That is our goal. There are other courses. There's like AP literature they could take if they're really crazy. I mean, they really want to. So that is what's happening for us. And this year, Shelley and I will be working together to identify, and we're going to be asking you to identify students in your schools that are ELL students. I will be working to set up, because they won't necessarily be taking the AP test because they're probably not enrolled in that class, or the IB test. We're going to set up there's some outside testing that we can pull in, and they can take that. It's a nominal fee, and we'll support that so that those students can also qualify, because they do have to pass an additional test, not just be proficient because they happen to speak the language. All right, I think I'm getting to introduce, I'm the opening act for Deb Kremer, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Deb Kremer, Coordinator for Career and Technology Education. And so in my office, there are many aspects of the office, as you're aware. Completer programs is one of them. In the back of the high school program of study book, we've, I think, really improved over the past couple of years these charts that show you exactly what students must do in order to be a CTE completer. As mentioned earlier, that CIP code has disappeared this year. You won't need to worry about that if it confused you in the past. You will see at the top that there's a minimum credit requirement. This is an MSDE requirement. So for most of them, it's 4 credits, depending on the program. Cosmetology, for example, is huge. It's 10 credits. Students have to commit 3 years of their lives, okay? So we've been able to separate what is absolutely required at the top, and then under the word extension is what students could continue to do if they're really passionate and driven to learn more in that field. You'll also notice at the bottom that these are state-approved programs per school. So there's a word that says availability, and the schools are listed that are approved to offer that. And then on the left-hand side, there's a lot of information about the industry certification students can earn, the program connections, how they can transfer straight to the community college or even earn college credits while they're in high school for many of these programs. So just want to update you on that. The only one that I believe does confuse some people, and let me just throw it out there right now. If your school has Project Lead the Way, engineering, and students use the first course as their basic tech credit, then they cannot double dip and use that again to count as one of the 4 completer credits. They would have to take 5 of the Project Lead the Way courses to be a completer. Okay, I think that's the only one last year that I noticed some confusion when we were doing the chords. So that's what brought it out. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free at any time to contact me, and I can walk you through any specific questions. Okay? Many comprehensive high schools have in the past offered business education completers. However, many schools have found it kind of difficult for students to actually complete. They have some students who may be interested in accounting, and once they get to accounting 2, the numbers dwindle a little, and those real hardcore numbers people, no offense to those of you that are hardcore numbers people, but usually by accounting 3, you don't have enough students interested to run the course. So it's really been a problem to get students to complete. MSDE has embraced this, and with a lot of our new initiatives in ECAP and other dual enrollment opportunities, MSDE has changed and given us several 4th credit options, which I think are going to make it much easier for students to complete business ed programs in your comprehensive high schools. They can do dual enrollment courses, they can do an internship in that field, and now AP Economics can count for 3 of those programs, you'll notice. So I know that Tammy Diedrich is coming around and talking to your counseling offices to make them aware of these changes. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to contact us, and we will be happy to come out and meet with you. Okay, and it's module time. Yay!
Right.
Meet passion course time.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to have a team of people addressing the audience here in a moment. And it's really a follow-up to what Dr. McMahon was talking about this morning related to the scheduling of quarter credit courses. So, high school people, take a deep breath. Okay, it's a brave new world, and we will navigate the waters of scheduling quarter credit classes together. I want to make sure that everyone is keeping in mind, at the front of their minds, Dr. McMahon's message about identifying student interests and combining those with teacher passions when we're talking about offerings of quarter credit courses in your schools and the actual scheduling and assignment of those courses to your staff. Some of the quarter credit courses can be used to meet graduation requirements. Okay, so it's going to take some time for you to reflect on what you're hearing today, go back to your schools, talk with your teams, and carefully mapping out on your course selection documents how you're going to offer quarter credit courses to students in the areas of basic technology as well as fine arts, okay? Because what we don't want is for someone to be left a quarter credit short in one of those areas, okay? So we've been talking about this, as Dr. McMahon said, for about 2 years. We now have the ability in our new student information system to capture and award credits at the marking period or quarter level. So that's really cleared the hurdles technically, okay? Now we have to take the vision of quarter credits and passion courses to the implementation phase. So I needed to see it, and I'm sure many of you do, needed to see it in a visual representation. So I just want to direct you to the very colorful handouts in your folders that I have put together for you that kind of map out in a student's schedule over the course of their high school career how they might take quarter credit classes. What you're seeing behind me is just a very brief screenshot that captures the top of one of the 3 potential pathways, okay? And we wanted to give you a visual representation with some of our most difficult to schedule students. So you'll see in your booklet the CAT or Advanced Tech student, the Signature and University of Maryland Completer Pathway student, and the IB and Avid student. And we kind of mapped out how a student can take quarter credit classes and navigate the waters in meeting all of their graduation requirements. So you'll see in a student's schedule, quarter credit classes always have to appear in pairs, right? Because you need to have a corresponding class in second marking period that matches a quarter credit class in first marking period. For you high school people thinking about our PSAT prep course, we have the math component and the English component, and generally you have 60 kids roughly in that queue. 30 are taking math in the fall, 30 are taking English in the fall, and then they flip-flop teachers, okay? So you can see I've kind of color-coded them in the documents to see what departments they fit into, and these are just examples as I said. Again, going back to Dr. McMahon's vision for the scheduling of these courses, you want to see multiple options for kids so that they can pursue their passion and their interests. So, when you're just looking at the student level, it's very straightforward. There's 2 classes, they appear in pairs. They could be in the tech ed or orange category, the fine arts or green category, if you will. But then how does that look across a school when you're thinking about your 100 teachers and a matrix? Well, there's an example of that as well. There's a 13 teacher chart. It really impacts the elective areas, and as you're going to find out in mathematics as well. How do you coordinate that across your building? Because you could go from the very simplistic, I'm bundling these technology courses together and I'm only offering them at one point in the school day. That really restricts the ability for students to take classes that might appeal to them in multiple domains. Right? Obviously, kids have to check boxes and meet graduation requirements in technology. But so many of these courses, they really have a lot of cool components to offer. Kids are going to want to take more. They might only want to take 3 of the passion courses and pursue an advanced tech course as well. So we don't want to inhibit their ability to take those courses at all. So in schools that are really going to jump in with both feet, you're going to want to take a look at how do I give options to a kid across multiple teachers in the same period of the day. All right, and if you look at the example on the screen here, it's 4B. So in multiple departments, they're going to have quarter credit opportunities for students, and that allows them to combine living month to month in facts with designing and prototyping in technology. So it's going to take some careful consideration, and I'm not going to be able to coach everyone through scheduling it right here at the podium today. So thankfully, we do have lots of opportunities in the next couple of months where we will be in front of high school schedulers to talk about Power School. And in fact, next week, we'll have people coming out to talk about course requests and the course request screens in the new student information system. And we would love to have an in-depth conversation about your questions, concerns, and ideas related to scheduling quarter credit classes. And I think this will be a conversation that goes on into the spring to make sure, as Dr. McMahon said, we don't go too slow or we don't box the kids in too much so that these programs can't be successful. Because when you look at the descriptions, and they can be found in the back of the booklet, beyond the CTE completer courses, you're going to see and you're going to hear that these courses are really cool. As a student, you probably would love to take them, and students in your building are going to want to take them. So with that being said, again, these examples are also on the intranet site with the resources for today's meeting, and we will discuss them with your schedulers next week when we have the opportunity around Power School Train. Okay? So I'm going to ask Deb Crummer to come back up and talk about the CTE quarter credit classes. Once I get out of your way. Yes, ma'am.
Click me up. Click me up. There we are. All right. So this is very exciting, and one of the things that we've heard a lot for the last really couple of years is everyone would like to see more computer science options. Schools don't have enough computer science options. And this, I think, really was the start of these passion courses. We started almost 2 years ago meeting with business partners, talking about what kinds of skills do students need to learn and experience and have opportunities to explore while they're in high school. And we came up with a list, and these are the modules that we started with. These are the modules that are going to roll out. And then there are different levels that will grow as these continue to expand. So we have, as you see up there, 7 different modules that are different levels, and it will say in the book, in the high school program of study book, whether or not there's a prerequisite. Discrete math, for example, is a very hard course that requires students to come with a good grasp of mathematics. Some of them are very entry level. All of the modules will have kind of a little almost a little survey monkey questionnaire for students to complete on their own to see if they believe. Now, for the math, that's a hard prerequisite, but for many of these, because students do so much outside of school on their own and teach themselves, they will be able to kind of self-select if they think they can be successful in the course. But most of these, as I said, are very entry level. One, the Linux module, will be taught in a distance learning environment, so we'll have one teacher teaching that. And again, because we are aware in this county of one teacher who's really good at it and has written the curriculum for this part. So Global IT Applications is one place where students can certainly explore in these passion courses, and hopefully we will be able to really build from there and get students who didn't originally think that they were capable of maybe an AAP computer science principles or didn't think they were interested. These courses will give students that window peak that they need to see that there really is something exciting and fun for them, and maybe they want to continue with that. Our other huge change and Global Technology Concepts is our new option for basic tech credit. FOT is dead, gone. In your book you will see that red. It should be red. It no longer exists. These modules will replace FOT, and you can select mix and match in any way that your school is comfortable, and again, that your teachers are comfortable. Okay? So there's a nice variety. We still have that design model and prototyping, but we also have some app development, some flight simulation, specific robotics, practical programming. So students are working through some of these modules now in your schools, in your classes. The curriculum was rewritten this past summer, and even though we weren't ready to roll out the .25 passion courses yet, we wrote the curriculum in a way that it is written to be a .25, and right now they're just kind of pieced together. So again, you're going to want to really look at your teaching staff and what their strengths and interests are, and choose the modules that really are going to be strongest supported in your school. But students love them. They're very hands-on and very exciting. And there are currently 2 modules for business education. We are in the process of writing more, but consumer behavior and conscious capitalism are the 2 that are going to be available this coming school year. Okay.
All right, good morning. I'm Shannon Pugh, and I have the great pleasure of working with the Fine and Cultural Arts team, in addition to some of my other duties. So I just want to frame our approach to some passion courses, and that is we chose to take a theme of storytelling and try to create some wonderful opportunities for our students to experience fine arts in a different way. Our students, of course, are required to have 1 fine arts credit for graduation. We went into this thinking about the students who fine arts in general isn't necessarily their passion, and so to come up with some creative opportunities for them. But I do want to say that the courses you're about to hear about, there are not any prerequisites, but they also do not serve as prerequisites for other art courses or fine arts courses. So I'm going to bring up, first of all, Christopher Whitehead, who's going to talk about a very exciting course called Writing on the Wall, Telling My Story Through Street Art.
Okay, as Shannon said, our course is called Writing on the Wall, Telling My Story Through Street Art. So this is a very exciting course, hopefully a good course to hook the students into the visual arts. The basic theme is looking at personal voice and telling a story, whether that story is personal or it's around a social group, and self-expression in general. So the media we've chosen to use this in is street art, which is a very contemporary movement. It has connections all the way back to cave painting time, so it's art historically been happening for thousands of years, but it's a very contemporary, very popular, very motivating art form at the time currently. It's a global phenomenon. It's a very exciting visual movement with direct connections to the students' world and is on a global scale. So we'll look at topics such as craftsmanship in your art, outdoor public art making, art historical references, social commentary, personal narrative, art versus vandalism, creating visual identity, collaboration, artwork exhibiting, and they'll have a chance to really work with contemporary artists. We have ideas of bringing in some Brazilian street artists to work with them hands-on. Ultimately, the goal is to introduce the visual arts students, to encourage them to enroll in other art courses, and to impact their lives regardless of their future schooling or career choices. Christiana Walsh.
And I'm going to lower the mic. So our dance course, like I mentioned before, Insta-Dance, Telling Stories Through Movement, is an opportunity for our students to explore the elements of dance and movement to facilitate storytelling through video technology. So using apps such as Instagram or Flipagram, students will create short stories for publishing to communicate their stories. A marriage of current trends and an introduction of how dance will be a vehicle for communication through the use of choreographic devices. The final product will allow our students to contribute how they best feel most comfortable, whether that be the creator of the product, the dancer or the performer, or even the videographer. So again, we're really excited about offering this course to our students to give them a taste, get them hooked, and potentially take some of our other courses, passion courses, or even move on to dance. Next, we'll hear from David Kaufman.
So the music contribution to the .25 is our Modern Beats, Tell Your Story Through Music. The course is specifically focused on writing lyrics while producing beats and music to reflect them. It will provide students with an opportunity to share a story that they are passionate about through rap or song. The course will also allow students authentic opportunities to connect with 21st century skills, such as critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. And then throughout the course, students will focus on the artistic, creative process of music writing while learning how to produce their own music, which has specific and personal meaning to them. The course will end with students having produced, recorded, and released their own complete song. Our next presenter is Allison Delaney.
Okay, so our theater course is Telling Stories in One Act, and I've been told to be passionate about this. So students will explore storytelling through elements of theater and drama. They'll have opportunities to work independently and in groups to share aspects of their personal stories or to tell or perform elements of existing narratives. So the focus will be on one act because it's a quarter credit, and this course will present an overview and introduction to elements such as setting, character, set design, screenplay writing, acting 101, and even improv. So by the end of this course, students should leave knowing that theater is more than just performance. That's it.
Good morning, Kevin Wajak, coordinator of high school mathematics. I'm excited to talk to you about 4 quarter credit options, 4 passion course options for students. We will be taking our current function focus course and making it available in a quarter credit option for students through 2 courses. One, Function Focus, the world around us, that will look at the mathematics of the world through nature, looking at earthquakes, looking at wind patterns. And then the second, Function Focus, man-made mathematics, looks more at the world of mathematics that we create. So looking at amusement parks, looking at the movement of metal through our culture and our society as it grows. We will also be introducing 2 new quarter credit courses. Both of those courses focus on logic. The first looks at game theory and Boolean operators, which is exciting and passionate. And the second is looking at networks and algorithms. So it's very mathematically, it's the mathematical foundation for what will eventually be computer science. So an opportunity for students that may not have gotten on the computer science train as early to experience that purest mathematics logic that doesn't always fit within our traditional program. These courses can be taken in tandem. So you will see from a graduation requirement perspective, students obviously still need 4 math credits in order to graduate. So if you are going to utilize these courses as graduation requirements, they should be paired. But as you see in the example, and to carry on Dr. McMahon's message, you don't have to pair function focus with function focus. Students can take a quarter of function focus and a quarter of logic if that's what meets their passion and their desire and your scheduling requirements. They can be taken in tandem. You can take both function focus, you can take both logic. All of them count towards graduation. Additionally, they can just be taken as standalone quarters so that students can explore that individual passion to see if that is something that they want to pursue long term. So the nice thing about the mathematics is that it works both ways. It works connected towards graduation requirement or as individual quarter credits just towards elective requirements. Thank you very much. I am excited to introduce Rich Berger and the very talented, mathematically minded Mary Austin to talk to you about some advanced program updates.
So I have never been introduced as mathematically minded, so thank you for that, Kevin. I appreciate it. So good morning again. We have actually very few updates to the magnet programs this year. But to begin with the IB program, this current school year we introduced IB Design for grade 6. For next school year, we'll be expanding that program to include IB Design for grades 6, 7, and 8. We'll be working towards infusing the Avid strategies in as part of our IB unit planners through our approaches to learning skills as a school-wide model, school-wide approach to Avid. And we'll be introducing our new IB Diploma Math program courses. In the STEM program, we have a new middle school STEM elective that will be required. It will replace the current world and classical language connections requirement. And also STEM is introducing a school-wide computer science elective that they are currently co-piloting this school year in the spring. Finally, PVA, Performing and Visual Arts, will introduce a 1-semester 11th grade required business and patronage class. Thank you, Rich. Specifically to the middle school schedule. So breathe. We, the Magnet Leads, will be following up with all the principals, assistant principals, and schedulers to help you through this, but we have things well under control. Again, STEM is introducing the STEM Toolbox STEM Thinking class, again, replacing that World Language Connections requirement. As I mentioned, IB is introducing the IB class, the IB Design class across all middle school grade levels. We'll be taking a unique approach to the arts and design schedule, and again, the school-wide approach to Avid. PVA has no changes to their scheduling based on the middle school schedule model, but the double block of prime will continue to be required. And finally, our Avid students, so students choosing the Avid program in middle school, will take Avid as one of their encore classes in 6th grade, so health and PE, arts, Avid, and then an elective of their choice. In 7th grade, they'll take again health and PE, an arts class, Avid, and World Language 1A, and an 8th grade World Language 1B. And that's it for our magnet program updates. Rich?
Okay, so as Dr. McMahon has already explained, global community citizenship, building a community in 9th grade signature will be a required course, building membership, connectedness, inclusion, and empathy. All 9th grade students will participate in this semester offering as part of Signature Exploration 1. Community citizenship is signature. Each school's theme will be instrumental in the course offering, the redesign, integrated into the course with non-negotiable modules to ensure signature relevancy, authenticity, and currency. The community citizenship course will count as half of the year-long Exploration 1 requirement. Specifically in the redesign, schools will need to look at their current year-long semester offerings of X1 and eliminate non-working elements, see what can naturally go into community citizenship, see what can be transferred into Explorations 1B or compacted, and see perhaps what even could be moved to Explorations 2. An important goal, as again Dr. McMahon referred, is getting the right teachers, getting your ICST, your integrated community stakeholders, business partners involved so that this course becomes naturally part of your signature. From the Home Instruction Office, very important. There are currently 2,800 students receiving home instruction in Anne Arundel County. Many of these students come in and out of our school system, enrolling for a while in home instruction, and then returning to the school system. High school principals need to understand that if any student is enrolling in your school from home instruction or from a non-approved, non-public program, he or she must undergo a credit transfer evaluation through the Office of Home Instruction. Please know that just because a school is MSDE approved to operate in the state of Maryland, it does not mean that that school is approved to award high school credit. So in all cases, we have a set of guidelines to outline how credits are evaluated and awarded. The transfer liaison in the Office of Home Instruction creates a transition plan to outline the process for each student, and that plan will be shared with school counselors and registrars. Advanced Learner Programs, DALI. Welcome Salvador Dali to Anne Arundel County Public Schools. DALI is the Differentiated Advanced Learning Initiative designed to advance the quality of learning for all students while meeting the specialized academic needs of highly able and gifted and talented students. What DALI will mean in the classroom, the Advanced Learning Office has been working very closely with our wonderful colleagues in middle school language arts and mathematics to develop open-ended learning tasks that are appropriate for our most advanced students. In math, this will consist of pre-assessments and learning extensions that are aligned to class standards but allow students to work collaboratively on real-world math problems that may have multiple right answers. In language arts, DALI will consist of quarterly learning modules that will provide more complex and challenging opportunities in reading materials and written assignments. Your next presenter will be the amazing Kelly Katzenberger. Shannon Pugh. The amazing Shannon Pugh.
All right, just a quick reminder as we start our scheduling process to really consider and make creating common planning times for our different, Kevin, do you have the flip? Thank you. For our different departments of priority so that curriculum and instruction, advanced studies, and special education can support in that collaborative planning effort. So we have outlined a couple of courses that are subjects that are our priority, obviously English, math, social studies, science, and world and classical languages. Also, please remember as you are trying to create common planning times, the high stakes assessments that our students do have, MCAP, which is which is replacing PARC, HSA, and MISA. So if we have at all a possibility of having collaborative or common collaborative planning time during the day for teachers who are teaching those courses, we in curriculum and instruction, and as I said, advanced studies and special education as well, can do our best to be at your schools to help facilitate that process. It works best if we can assign somebody to be at a school for half a day, so just kind of think about that in your collaborative planning as you go through. Some of our offices have 1 or 2 people trying to get to every secondary school, and some of our offices, might have 4, and that's really not a whole lot when we think about all that we have. So just wanted to give that, that reminder to you as we move forward. And now I get the opportunity to introduce the wonderful, Lee Mann. Had to see who was coming.
We're going a little out of order. Hi, everybody. I'm here to talk about testing again. I know everyone gets excited about that. And I was going to be able to say I stand between you and the break, but now I stand between you and Kelly Katzenberger. So let's talk a little bit about testing. The big news, some of you may or may not have heard of, is that we are administering PARC for the last time this year. And actually, we are going to be introducing a new assessment program called MCAP. Stands for Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program. All of the Maryland tests will fall under the MCAP umbrella. PARC is going to be replaced with a test that looks very similar to PARC. It is going to test all of the same grades 3 through 8 in mathematics and ELA, English 10, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. So beginning next year, we will be giving the MCAP assessments. This year, we are still giving the PARC assessments, though MSDE is actually referring to them in many of their communications as MCAP assessments. Everything that we've done for our county still says PARC. So we're going to be sticking with that for now. Major differences between the tests that Maryland is going to develop and PARC. It's going to take, some of the questions are going to be computer adaptive. So, for example, if a student is given a question that's kind of at a mid-range level and they get it wrong, they're going to be given an easier question. If they answer that question at the mid-range correctly, they'll get a more difficult question. So it really just teases out where the student falls within the grade level standards. So if a student is taking grade 6 mathematics, they're not going to keep on testing until they can't test anymore at, let's say they get all the way through 8th grade. It's not going to be like that. It's just within their grade level standards. And what that's going to do for many students is reduce the amount of testing time by about 30%, is what we're being told. We have been told that the rollout next year should be seamless, where it keeps me with a job, I guess, if they keep changing the tests. They are going to have, my guess is they're going to purchase PARC questions. The tests are going to continue to be rigorous and test the same standards that we've been testing. They say we're going to have the same performance levels, the same type of scoring, and that we're just going to flip a switch and roll right through. That's what they tell us now. They have said, but we are prepared to do a field test year in the event we need it. So we're really not going to know that because we don't have a contract yet. So there's a lot of unknowns out there. The biggest unknown is how is it going to impact graduation? I feel like I've been coming up here for the last 6 years telling you that next year we're going to have really solid graduation requirements that are going to get us through. And here I am again telling you, I'm not sure what it means for graduation. But as soon as they tell me, I will let you know. For your current students operating and getting ready to graduate this year and next year, let's talk about 5 things to know. Testing requirements continue to be aligned with the Algebra 1 course, the English 10 course, U.S. government, and now for the second year, the next generation science standards. Those students who took MISA last year, no scores. That was a strict field test. Students taking MISA this year are in a participate only, no fault. They will get scores, but we won't get it until about this time or even later next school year. So any student taking MISA this year meets the graduation requirements simply by sitting and taking the test. Okay? PARC passing scores remain the same. I know we talked last year about how they're going to do these graduated scores and based on a student's current, previous 6th grade enrollment. Right now, the passing scores are at 725 for Algebra and English 10. Most commonly, your seniors this year, unless they're 5th year seniors, most commonly your 4-year graduates need to pass English 10 with a 725 in order to graduate. So we have some students already working on bridge. And depending upon when your students took algebra, for the most part, I think we're still going to be having students who don't need to have that 725 algebra passing score just yet because so many of our students took it in 8th and 9th grade. Unless for some reason they didn't take it until 10th grade, they're most likely still under the participation for algebra. All right, so let's talk about course scheduling. This is a big one for the high schools. When students take MISA in the 10th grade, it's very important that they've had the course scheduling according to the science office. So my understanding is that is honors biology 9th grade, honors chemistry 10th grade. At that point, those students have received all of the curriculum and have had exposure to all of the standards. The other pathway is environmental science in the 9th grade, followed by standard biology in the 10th grade. So you just have to be very careful about mixing those 4 classes up. For example, if you start with honors biology, but then decide to put the student in standard chemistry, the student is going to be missing some of the standards. So it's very important to keep that in mind when you're scheduling those science classes. All right, U.S. government. Eve was walking around handing out she put some handouts on your table. It's very important for all of the courses that students have completed the course by the end of 11th grade. All right, we have some students this year who are in English 10 and U.S. government for the first time ever. I think we have 1 or 2 students in algebra for the first time, but that's due to a random situation. When we wait until senior year to put students in a course where they need to pass the test, we are really making graduation very difficult for them. They don't qualify for any type of waiver if they've been in the state of Maryland. So if you're in U.S. government for the first time as a senior and it's your 4th year in Anne Arundel County, you have to take the test in January, even though you've not had the entire curriculum, and that is not fair to students. Then most likely, you're going to have to begin some bridge projects. Even though we don't know your score, we won't know your score until April of your senior year. So you've got to get those some bridge projects completed. We've got students in this situation in this county right now, and it's very unfair to those students. So they're going to have to complete bridge projects. Then when we get the score, we've got to figure out if they need more bridge projects. Then they have to sit for the test again in May, because bridge doesn't count unless you have 2 government scores. So it's very, very important to make sure that students, and the same would hold true for English 10, and the same will hold true for MISA. So we're really wanting to make sure that the students have those courses and have completed them by the end of the junior year, preferably, you know, I believe government is offered in 10th grade, English 10 and MISA. So preferably 10th grade, which gives us a lot of time to remediate and do bridge. All right, for U.S. government, and some other, on occasion, the other courses, we do have an option for a waiver. If a student transfers in during the senior year, so we've got some students right now who've transferred in from Virginia, Fairfax County. They don't give government until the students are in their senior year. So those students come in, and what do? Well, fortunately, the state allows for a waiver. Those students are taking the government course. They're going to sit for the government test in May, and once the STC tells me the student has completed the test, I'm going to say the student is fine to graduate. We don't even need to wait for the score because we will have completed some waiver paperwork. All right, for students in that situation, let's say we have that same student from Fairfax County, but the student transfers late in the junior year. But in Fairfax County, that student is taking U.S. history. All right, we've come up with a plan because this has happened to us. It doesn't seem fair to hold those students, you know, to having to complete government in the junior year or having to pass it in the senior year just because they transferred at the end of their junior year, right? That doesn't seem fair. So what we've done is we've kind of outlined a pathway for those students. If you have a student who transfers in during the first marking period, it's on the flow sheet that I gave you there. It would be wise to get that student in a government class during the junior year. If they transfer in during the second marking period, they should be, or the second semester, they should be put into U.S. government second semester. They will complete the course out of sequence, but it's the only way that we're going to be able to guarantee that we can get them across the stage because they don't qualify for that senior year waiver. So they will complete second semester government. They will test. Hopefully someone in your building can work with them and provide them a little bit of support on content that was covered in the first marking period so that they have a shot at passing the test. In the fall, they will take first semester U.S. government. If they failed the test in May, they'll retest in January. And at that point, we've got time if the student needs to do any bridge projects. All right, so we wanted to put that out there as really kind of best practice for that handful of students. We usually have about 20 a year maybe who, throughout the county, who kind of fall into that junior year transfer situation. So it's just important to think about, you know, the course scheduling. Working with your STC, I know every STC at every school in here, and in the high schools in particular, they're very on top of their game as far as making sure the students have completed the courses they need aligned with these tests and that they've taken the tests. So working with them on a regular basis, especially with regard to your seniors, is very important. We're going to be working closely with schools like Diane does this wonderful senior, you know, proofread, I like to call it. We're going to begin working with STCs doing that as far as testing is concerned. Diane and Ed handle the credits. We're going to do that proofread where we look at every single senior in the county to see if they've met testing requirements. What the STCs need to know is of any student who doesn't have a 12 next to their name right now or in February who is planning to graduate. I don't even know if you can graduate if you're still 11th grade, but if they're tweeners right now or early graduates, the STCs need to know who those students are because they're doing all of their searches right now based on grade 12. So if you have lists of tweeners, please make sure that you're sharing those regularly with your test coordinators. I think it's a great idea if you're able to have your test coordinators come to your DC department meetings on occasion just to kind of go over the students who are not set for graduation and what the plan is. All right, so testing and graduation, this is just kind of a bonus. This is a review from last year. College and career readiness is not tied to graduation. All right, I know many of you are giving the AccuPlacer right now. It is not tied to graduation, but state law requires that the students who are scheduled to take AccuPlacer that they have a retest for CCR purposes. ESSA, so our new state accountability plan based from the feds requires that every student take a reading test and a math test in high school. So we're giving PARCC/MCAP to every 9th grade student based on their course enrollment. So it's going to be Algebra 1, geometry should cover 95% of the students. Some 9th graders we have sitting in Algebra 2. South River and North County, where you do the combined, please give those students the Algebra 2 test because that also counts for CCR. So we can hit two birds with one stone. So those two schools where you either do it every other day or you do it on a semester basis, please make sure that those students take Algebra 2 and not geometry. But for every other 9th grader, it'll be based on their course enrollment. Okay? I'm going to be here after Kelly finishes if anybody has any questions. All right, here's Kelly Katzenberger. I'm supposed to go this way.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. I am lucky to lead our really smart research office. We will be providing this year for you the articulation list that we typically push out through our office, and the key word here is review and consider. So we will push out, and I'm going to explain the list and sort of how we generate those in our office, but the idea is you know your kids best. And this, we've had lots of success with the way that we generate our lists. So we just ask that you review and consider, particularly because we do try to be all-inclusive when we create them. So here's kind of our timeline. This, I guess, kind of kicks off scheduling season. So once you begin those processes, you will get a list from us. It will actually be later in February this year than it has typically been in the past, and that's because we really want to give one list to the middle schools and one list to the high schools. You may have some elementary schools that are interested in kind of where those 5th graders to 6th graders kind of landed. By all means, please share that list. Not every school is interested, so if they do reach out to you as a middle school scheduler and they're interested in those lists, please feel free to go ahead and share that information with the elementary schools as requested. So what you will get from us is the middle schools will get a list of math and ELA for grades 5 to 6. You will also, for middle school, get your ELA for your other grades. High schools will get your ELA, and then an AP potential list and an AP consideration list. And I'm going to talk to you just in a second about the difference between those and how we generate those. The other thing that we do is very early in August, we take a look at your schedule, and then we'll kind of pull our recommendation list with your schedule and how your kids are currently scheduled, and we'll send a discrepancy list. So we really said these kids are highly recommended. They're not currently in an advanced or honors course. You may want to reconsider or have time, so that way you'll have some time to do some juggling around if necessary. Okay, so we use lots of data points, and Dr. Mei Wang out of our office, she does a lot of different correlations to figure out which data points match best with which recommendation. So you can kind of see the list, and we don't use all of them for every single recommendation, but this is sort of a comprehensive list of the data points that we do use, and then we are able to create kind of cut scores for depending on either math or ELA, and then we kind of flag kids with a certain number of flags depending on how they score on these assessments. So kind of how we classify kids, we sort of changed it a little bit last year, and we found a lot of success with it. Depending on their flags, kids will either be highly recommended, which means they should most definitely be in an advanced or honors course. They will be recommended, consider other data points, maintain placement, or no data available. So for each ELA and math placement, you will get one of these categories for those kids. But please know that the recommended, consider other data points, and the no data available means those really warrant additional discussions within your building. They also may warrant discussions with C&I. So if a kid's recommended, they might kind of be very close to meeting that criteria, and it might just be a teacher recommendation or a parent recommendation, or even the kid, knowing the kid as well as you do. Or even from C&I. They know the rigor involved in the class, so they may be able to give you some content or some standards that if the kid's a really great writer, maybe you want to go ahead and push them forward to the honors or the advanced section. So this is for high school only, so sorry middle school guys, but just so you know, we also push out an AP potential list and an AP consideration list. We started doing this because we used to give everybody the PSAT, and College Board sort of generated those lists for us. And so we were kind of looking for a replacement for that. We now have our current 11th graders took the PSAT in the fall, so you will get that information for just your 11th graders. So we're going to continue to push out the AP potential and the AP consideration files. So the difference between the two is when we send you the AP potential list, those are kids that really, really, really belong in an AP class. Our data shows that those kids typically pass the AP test at the end of the year. So it's a really high passing percentage for those guys. They will likely pass that exam. We also started doing, with the help of Northeast, Annapolis, and Chesapeake high schools last year, we were really looking for another way to sort of identify some more non-traditional AP kids. Who are we missing kind of in this AP potential identification? And so with their help, we were really able to identify kids who are sort of those non-traditional AP kids, but they will pass the class. They may or may not pass the test, but it's a great experience for them. So last year was the first year that we did it, so just to kind of give you some numbers, we identified 788 students last year for AP consideration. It was the first time that we did it. Of those 788 students, 51% were actually enrolled in an AP class. And then of those, 98% of students earned a C or better first marking quarter. So that's great data to show that, you know, we kind of need to be a little bit more inclusive and that these kids can do it. So we're going to push that list out to you. But just so you know, we have this good first marking period. We have some good data to show that that list is a pretty good list as well. And that's it for me. Thanks.
All right, so just before we take our break, I want to plug one more time the opportunity to send your questions to Program of Study at aacps.org. We are going to take a 10-minute break, so we will reconvene at about 10:27. Thank you.
and Patrick Malone. Come forward.
Good morning, everybody. We're here to talk about the online course offerings that probably many of you know about. I'm Stephanie Kelly.
I'm Patrick Malone.
Slide.
Yeah, sure. The newer, cleaner, shaven version. Yeah. So I'd like to start off again because I know there's plenty of you in here that are very familiar with our online course offerings and how they get processed. There's quite a few of you that look new to me. So one of the things that we've produced for you is I have a set of handouts that were on your table. There's about 4 pages in there. One of them include all of the terminology that we use. It's a really good idea, especially when you're dealing with something that isn't universal or that we don't have universal knowledge of, to kind of standardize the communication of it. So just going through, we have 2 types of distance learning offerings that we utilize as a county. One of them is a synchronous method, which means that's where everybody's taking the class at the same time, and that's what is known as our distance or broadcast learning opportunities. That's where we use either a web conferencing platform, or this year we've branched out into using some of our telepresence robots to service kids taking distance learning classes. The other component is asynchronous, and that's where you take an online class in a more self-paced environment, and that's what we usually use our MVLO courses for. MVLO stands for Maryland Virtual Learning Opportunities. These are courses that have been vetted by MSDE and our content coordinators. And I want to make that very clear, is that you also have a list of all of the approved courses for the current school year. Those typically don't change drastically, but these have been vetted, like I said, not just by MSDE, but these have been vetted by our content coordinators. And why is that important? That's because our content coordinators have looked over these courses and have seen that they align as best as possible to our own curriculum, so that when we enroll a student in an online course, it will mimic an Anne Arundel County course 98% of the way there, maybe 99%. I don't guarantee anything, but that's about as close as we get. And we also, we see a large portion of students that take online courses, usually taking advanced level courses, and I can speak to the success of the students taking those online courses, that our average AP score for an online student is over a 3. So these are quality courses. So with Maryland Virtual Learning Opportunities, we have the online classes. Our registration system, how do you get a kid enrolled in this? It's all online. So everything that you need to enroll or verify or check out our online programs, all of our information's on our Blackboard page, which is on the handout. Type in that URL, you get to the online campus page, and that's where you can get not only the registration link to go to the Google Doc where you register a student, but as part of the registration process, you have to get our ethics and participation signatures. So before you even submit that, you have to get the student and the parent to sign off on all of the requirements, including them making sure they're going to be able to maintain effort of work, make sure they're going to be an ethical online student, et cetera, and so forth. So all of that information is on our Blackboard page. If you have any questions about where to get information, start with the Blackboard page, and then if you can't find it, contact us, which many of you are very good at, all right? And we try and get back to you within a day, and I believe I'm pretty reliable in that respect. I apologize if recently I haven't been, but it's been a busy year. Also, one of the last points I want to make with MVLO is making sure that we're kind of vetting students appropriately for it. I'm listening to the presentation on advanced placement courses. If a student is a first-time AP student, having them take their very first AP class online is not something I would recommend. It is an incredibly pressure-packed course in a short period of time. It typically benefits the students that are self-motivated, good on-time management. There are some skills that you must have to participate successfully online. That doesn't mean I want to exclude students, but in order for students to maintain success, we want them to have some innate abilities that they can work on this successfully on their own for the most part. We do provide excellent support, but this is just something that we want to make you guys aware of, particularly as we get ready to ramp up scheduling.
And to add to that, we have a course for students that it's a self-paced course that they can kind of look at and kind of decide whether or not online learning's appropriate for them. So we would enroll them in that for free, and they could look through that. It talks about the expectations and things of a course if you're in doubt. Distance learning, which is also known as broadcast. We have AACPS courses taught by AACPS teachers. They're at a location, but they are broadcast to other locations. And Patrick usually sends out around second semester what your expectations are, what you may need as a broadcast course. And then we gather all that information and meet with coordinators and schools to kind of see who would be the broadcast school and who would be the receiving schools. It's based on need and demand, and the nice thing about that is we're trying now to use that with the robots so that a student could be at their home school on a computer and be remotely via a robot into a classroom where it's being taught somewhere else. So we're trying that. We're also trying where a few students could also be on one robot at a participating school. So little things we're trying out, and as always, there's our information, our emails. You can contact us or call the office if you have anything in question or you have a schedule that you need to make appropriate choices for. We do give priority to juniors and seniors first because we only have a certain amount of budget, so they get first priority, and then it works down the lines from there. So graduation is the main important part of online, and after that, if we have funding, we will enroll other students.
Two things I want to point out. One, I've been contacting counseling departments. I would like to come in and meet with the schedulers and your counselors independently prior to the start of scheduling, just so if you have any questions that we can't talk about now, I'd love to come out and spend some time at a team meeting talking with your counseling teams. The other thing, if you would like to see how our telepresence robots work in action, particularly in regards to distance learning, please contact me, because I think the teachers that have them in the classroom would be more than happy to have you observe a little bit to see how they work and how we're utilizing this cutting edge technology. So please, again, you have our contact information. Let us know if you'd like to go out and take a visit to one of our locations where this is happening.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, this time I'd like to invite Susan Love to come up and talk about school counseling
Dr.
issues.
Hamlin. I will be brief. I don't think there's too many changes other than curricular changes in quarter credits. I do want to speak to you a little about the Early College Access Program. There's one pretty much major change that I need schools to know, and I did speak to the department chairs, so they do know it's coming. It will be coming for the next school year. So if you refer on page 13 of the program of study for this year for high school, we have the complete direction sheet that we normally give out to parents and students as a separate document. But this year, the major change is the program is open to juniors and seniors that generate a readiness, a good academic standard readiness, and the requirements are on that document sheet. You will also be able to have that document sheet as a separate sheet when you are working with your rising juniors and seniors during scheduling time. The big caveat here, and it's really important, is that only seniors will receive a partial schedule if it deems necessary for them. So it's really important when you're working with students and families, if this is their pathway, that it's an appropriate pathway for them. And they do have good academic standing, they've passed all their state assessments, they're attending school, and it aligns to their post-secondary options. And lastly, which is really important, when you're in the middle of articulation and scheduling, when you're meeting with those students and families, it's really important to let parents know that they do not count as a letter grade, that they are actually an SRU, and just really kind of honing in and what that means for their rising senior, especially when they're in the midst of applying for college. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or meet with me after this meeting. Thank you. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Sarah Eager. She will talk to you about our dual enrollment and some of the statistics for Anne Arundel County Public School.
That was awesome. Hi, as Susan Love said, I'm Sarah Eager. I'm the Director of Early College Programs and Partnerships. So I work at Anne Arundel Community College, but I say 50% of my time at least I get to spend back in AACPS where I came from, and 50% of my time is at AACC. So the programs that make up early college access enhance high school students' ability to earn college credits. Since the introduction in 2013 of the College Career Readiness, College Completion Act, colleges across the nation have seen an explosion in the number of dual enrollments. AACC has seen I'm going to cheat here, a 35% increase in the numbers of enrollments between 2013 and last year. So specifically I want to talk about the Early College Access Program, the ECAP program. Some of you still know it as the Jumpstart program. This program allows students to get 50% tuition reduction. This means a savings of about $168 for a 3-credit course. This means courses cost $268 as opposed to $436. Good, I have it up there. And farm students are charged $100, only fees, not tuition. However, that $100 can be offset if they qualify for the Early College Access Grant, which allows them $200 in the fall term and $200 in the spring term, which they can apply to the supply fees. They can also apply to book costs. Just want to throw out book costs. Anne Arundel Community College is moving towards, many courses have already moved towards open educational resources so that the textbooks and educational materials would be free for students. Some have already moved, some instructors are still kind of looking. I know that AACPS spends a lot of time searching for OER, and sometimes it's difficult. And so hopefully more and more of our courses over the years will be able to decrease those textbook costs, which for some students do prove prohibitive. So the requirements for students to receive the 50% tuition reduction are a GPA of 2.0, submission of test scores, either ACT, SAT, or the Next Gen AccuPlacer starting for next fall, and principal permission via the ECAP form sign-off that Susan was just talking about. When we talk about dual enrollment at AACC, I want to clarify the difference between dual enrollment and dual credit really quickly. Dual credit, there's a subset of our courses that are approved by AACPS so that students can get both credit for taking one course at AACPS and AACC. There's about, at last count, 84 courses on that list. However, students are allowed, we allow students to take any course for which they're eligible. High school students can take any of our courses if they've met the prerequisite requirements. And I kind of had some fun, thank you. These are the top 15 courses that were taken by high school students last year as dual enrollment. Some very interesting, some kind of to meet requirements. I had some fun looking through our course selection and found some courses that kind of mirror what Dr. McMahon was talking about passion courses, things that high school students might really be interested in, such as game character design, general oceanography, history of popular music, introduction to paralegal studies, African American history, the cosmic frontier, I want to take that, and a variety of foreign language courses that may not fit in the high school programs at this point in time. So encourage your students to look through our schedule. I will admit, one disconnect is that our schedules don't come out until April for fall, and I know you all begin scheduling much earlier, but our schedules will come out in April, and registration begins in mid-April. I will send through Susan, I don't know where Susan is, I will send through Susan Love a list of ECAP-friendly courses, which are courses that begin somewhere after 11:30 during the daytime that a senior who's on early release could fit into their schedule. And it's broken out by location. So there's Arnold, Glen Burnie Town Center, and Arundel Mills. And that's just helpful for them to narrow down because our schedule is so vast and it's kind of hard to find time slots that might meet a high schooler's schedule. High school students have the opportunity to enroll in online courses, hybrid courses, face-to-face courses. They're usually offered, again, another disconnect, they're not 8AB day, as you know. They're either Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. Many of our courses are now Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And again, online and hybrid. Some schools, and I'll pick on Arundel for just a minute, some schools are encouraging their students to enroll dual enrollment online. And what Arundel specifically has done is blocked out time in these students' schedules so that they can go to the virtual learning lab and complete some of the coursework. They're not going to complete all of the online coursework because it is a heavy load, but they'll be able to complete some of it. And Arundel's providing a staff member to supervise who's been trained by our virtual campus so that they're familiar with the platform. We use Canvas, our learning management system, like Blackboard, and so we've trained Arundel staff so that they can navigate at least the platform, so that doesn't pose a barrier to students who are maybe in their first experience with an online course. We are also, in addition to sort of student interests and passion, we're also looking at strategically scheduling the beginning of certificates so that students can start, high school students can start during the day and sometimes during the evening, starting certificates that will lead to a pathway to either a full degree or just completion of a certificate much earlier. Some of those certificates we're looking at are the Transportation Logistics and Cargo Security, which right now is run at, right now is and will continue to be run at North County, but we're looking at scheduling it at the Glen Burnie Town Center. We're also looking at things like criminal justice, again, really high interest for students so that they can begin them and save a lot of money during their senior year or even before. Some of you are wondering what the success rate is. I will say that AACPS students are highly prepared when they come to us as high school students taking college courses, whether it's on campus or at their high school locations. The success rate for AACPS students is 83.5%. Don't tell anyone, I know this is being recorded, but the success rate for non-high school students at AACC is 75.2%. Again, success rate is A, B, or C in the course. So that always impresses everyone. I love throwing that statistic around the college and saying, how do we get everyone prepared like you all prepare your students to come to us? So thank you. And to throw out there, we don't have a specific profile of a student who is ready to come to us as a high school student taking dual enrollment courses. Any student can benefit, and I'm sort of just starting to get the tip of the iceberg about the research on student success, low achieving student success at college. And in a 2016 article by Brooke Henderson, there's a growing body of research that shows early college access programs can be especially beneficial to students who have lower high school grade point averages, are not native English speakers, and are from ethnic and economic groups historically underrepresented in college. So make sure as you're talking to your students, if they have an urge to come to us, we can help you. You all do a great job in supporting your students. We've worked a lot with the counseling staff, and they've been very supportive. But just know that any student can succeed at our college. I don't know if I mentioned that students are able to take credit courses and get the ECAP discount, and also developmental courses and academic track ESL courses. And we're working together with you all to get more students into these academic ESL courses where appropriate. I wanted to close by sharing a number of you principals were involved in the breakfast a few weeks ago at AACC. And I wanted to share that one of the Severna Park graduates who is taking courses as a dual enrollment student shared with us, I'm just going to quote him, he said that he felt that more high school students should take courses at AACC to get the exposure to college early on, to get on the campus and find out how great AACC is. And again, a simple testimonial, I loved it. He was very succinct and shared a wonderful experience. Thank you. And now we are going to have...
Thanks. So we're moving to the portion of the morning that I'm very excited about because it's the Student Data Division, or Student Data Office, that I get to work with every day, and they're great people. I'm sure you've worked with them over the years. So to talk about the middle school FTE tool and the course request forms, Jessica Roos, and then Diane Copeland's going to talk about some new high school course codes.
Hi, everyone. So on your table, there is a draft copy of the middle school course request forms. It does take into account current course offerings you have now, plus the revisions that are coming with the new scheduling model for middle school. Forgive me if there's any edits still on there. I have to do 24 of these times 3 pages each times magnet programs in there as well. So if I missed taking out a C somewhere on the ABC rotation, forgive me. Corrections to the course form will be due by January 15th. Any edits or changes in courses, I will make sure that they're pushed out in PowerSchool for you for scheduling purposes. Please designate one point of contact to send any edits or revisions. Once those edits have been made, they will be posted up on the intranet site in the SMS Power Teacher Help site under course request forms for you to pull down the new revised, updated forms with the edits that you send me. I will also send an email to that point of contact saying that the new forms are up there. Please give me about a 24-hour turnaround time by the time you guys send me the edits. Okay, so with that, you guys also have your FTE spreadsheet. The FTE spreadsheet tool that you have is the same as last year. It will function with the new PowerSchool. There are directions that have been updated on the form, and during your training sessions you have coming up specifically for middle school, I can go over that and go over step by step exactly how to use it, how to get the information out of PowerSchool, how to plug it into that sheet in order to use it to figure out how many sections you're going to need of classes. The tool has 3 pages, the data, planner, and total tabs, just as always. The data tab is where you'll drop all of your data, and that will automatically feed to the planner tab, which you see on the screen. The planner tab has 4 columns, that are able to be edited by you. The first one is the offerings, so daily, AB, or semesterized AB. You'll have the ability to edit those. The courses, course ID, course total request, all automatically feed. The max size would be something else you guys have the ability to edit. You can change how many students you want in those classes. So if 28 is too little on that first line example, you could up it to 35 and it will automatically adjust across the pages for you. It will also provide you with an estimated number of sections you'll need, the estimated class size. You can fill in the actual number of sections, which is the next blue heading. Doing that will fill in how many full-time teachers you need. You also have the ability to add notes. So if there's a specific class you need to say is divided amongst teacher A, teacher B, or is split between STEM and Dolly, or anything along those lines, you have that ability to add those comments just as a reminder to you. This will be posted on a OneDrive site, again, so that way you have online access, and if there's anything that needs to be updated or changed, or additional classes added, I will go ahead and add them on there for you. The FTE totals tab we'll give you a summary of how many sections you need by subject area, how many positions you need by subject area, and then it will also do your core teaming for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade based on your core classes. This will be sent out by February 28th to you guys once I have your edits. As I make your edits to your course request forms, based on what you guys would like to have offered, I go ahead and update your FTE sheet. I also make sure those courses are out available for you for PowerSchool, so it's a chain system there that I gotta follow. So by the 28th, I would have all of these out to you guys with all of your updates and all of your revisions. Now I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Copeland for everything high school. Thanks.
Good morning. The state is now asking that we identify students who are participating in the Jump Start as well as our CIP programs. So to do that, we have created a whole new set of J courses. That way you will use those J courses to actually schedule the child. It won't be a restricted period anymore. You will use the J course. The J course is already set up so that it is not included in GPA. So that we take away sometimes they would give it an A instead of an S, and it would calculate it into the GPA. This, they will have to, they'll use the numbers we have, and it will automatically keep it out of the GPA. You'll notice that the traditional title, English 12 S1, well, the Jump Start title is J, English 12, Semester 1. Okay? A whole set of these titles will be on the Articulation site, on our help site, so that the registrars this spring can start using that to record information the kids have done this year since we didn't schedule it. Okay, so it'll have a column for the AACC course, and it'll have our AACPS course. In 1920, you will schedule it, and the registrars won't have to do that anymore. So go back to your registrar and tell them this is the last time that they're going to have to record those, and they will be very happy. Next, state's now asking for something else. O courses. Well, they didn't ask for O courses. They asked us to distinguish between students who receive face-to-face instruction and students who receive online instruction. So I thought, okay, we'll stick them in an O course, and that way we'll know which ones are actually the online instruction. Similar to the J courses, we've just put an O in the very front of it. Looking at the course IDs as well, the original AP Psychology S1 was a B61810, so the online course ID is going to be O B6181. I tried to keep them as much similar as I could so people that know courses by titles or people that know courses by numbers would not have any trouble with those. Next, we have our quarter courses. We have a lot of quarter courses. I used this course, Flight in Action, as a sample. You'll look at the course ID and you see that in the last digit of the course ID, it's indicating the marking period that it's offered. But if a kid is looking at a listing of the title on their schedule, they'll see the marking period on the end of the name of the title. So that very first line shows a first marking period class. The second one would be a second marking period class. The third would be a third marking period class, and so on. Students should not take more than one of these kinds of courses, meaning in Flight in Action, a student takes Flight in Action one time, earns credit one time, and you do not schedule them for that again. Okay? The next one, we have the technology courses, and there are 6 different technology courses they can take. So we've created the different marking periods for each course. I've given a sample of one kid that decides to take those 4, and you've been able to work it into your schedule. So those first marking period, second marking period, third and fourth marking period technology courses. The other thing that we are taking care of in the graduation planner that's in Power School is if the student already has credit for Foundations of Technology A or Foundations of Technology B, they can use that half credit with 2 of these to complete the basic technology requirement. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, now we have our scheduling managers, Tom Fitzgerald and John Shurko.
Good morning, everyone. We usually come up here and talk about teacher recommendations and how to implement that because that's the next step in the scheduling process. But today we don't have to do that because of our new software. And you know, we'll talk about that next year again because we'll have that back. But today we wanted to outline one change that's going to happen, and the change is on the screen behind me. So John and I are going to share duties, high school and middle school. So we're going to be more of a secondary scheduling support rather than just I do high school and he does middle school. So as you can see, the alignment is a little bit different. I kind of take the south part of the county and the west part of the county, and John takes the north and the east part. That doesn't mean that when you call on the phone and have a middle school question, John will be there to help me out, and vice versa. So we're still a team. It's just we're going to work more integrated than we have before, so that we can, you know, learn. We're basically learning a new software program, so it presented this opportunity for us to do both levels at the same time.
I feel like I finally graduated to high school. Middle school we'll start working with scheduling, and I'll be responsible for the training, which will start back in January, the end of January 22nd to the 25th. All this information is going to be on ERO, so please make sure that schedulers that you sign up for it. And then counselors, make sure you sign up and get to the entering course requests in February. And then we'll come back again and show more about scheduling sections and loading students into the actual scheduling process in April. Then Tom and I will be offering workshops throughout the spring, like we much have done in the past, where you're allowed to come and we'll help you with your scheduling at that time. So just make sure you sign up for the ones in January, February, and April, because we know they will be on ERO. We're looking forward to the one where it says commit schedules. By that we mean we hope all the scheduling is done by June 19th.
That means every high school and every middle school, June 19th.
By June 2020,
Same thing.
you got it.
The high school schedules, the training, as Dr. Hamlin mentioned, we're going to see you every month, and we're going to walk you through the new program as best we can. The next one is actually next week, the 4th and the 5th. If you responded to the calendar invite that I sent out in Outlook, we put you, whatever day you chose, we put you into ERO. We signed you up for an ERO automatically. If you haven't responded to one of those, and there's a few, please go on ERO and respond. It's one day, not both. It's just one day. So choose the 4th or the 5th, whichever is more convenient for you, and get yourself on the list, please. And that's also not just the scheduler, but the backup if available, and also the counseling DC if available for that training as well. The more people you have involved in the course request screens, the better they're going to come out and the better they're going to work for the school moving forward. And that's pretty much it. You can see the rest of the workshops are up there on the board. I'm sure we've shared that with you before, and like John said, they'll be on ERO as we go forward. All right, here's Dr. Hamlin to close us out.
Well, we made great time. All right, so we're through faster than we anticipated, which is always a great thing. Woo-hoo! Just some final notes as we wrap up the structured portion of our meeting. On your table is a booklet print request form. Last year we left those blank and we just asked you to enter in a number. That proved to be a little problematic when it came to printing and distribution. So we've estimated a number of booklets that you might need. Please feel free to modify that a little bit, but we've given you a jumping off point. All right. Our goal is to get these books printed in time for you to use them in the scheduling process. And I know that sometimes in years past that has not always been the case. So along with that, I just want to say that you can review all the materials that were given to you today on the articulation, in the articulation section of the SMS help site. We need, if you have questions, and someone asked me, can I send you one email with a list of questions? Yes. Can I send you 20 emails with one question each? Sure. What I would encourage you to do is go back to your school teams this afternoon and tomorrow morning, share with them what you heard, what you saw, and kind of collect school-wide feedback. If you noticed a problem in any of the course descriptions or anywhere in the booklet, please bring that to my attention as well. In order to meet our timeline for printing, I do need all of your feedback by tomorrow. All right, so it is kind of time is of the essence. Maybe some of you have emailed already today, but I really need to try to collect all the feedback by tomorrow around noon so I can make edits to the booklet so that I can get it to print and design.
Just to put things in context, we used to do all of the editing in this meeting for those of you who have been around for a while and just give it to somebody to type it all. So I don't know that you're going to find a lot of those recommendations, but we really do want to make sure the information is accurate. I want to thank our folks from home who weren't able to join us here inside the boardroom, but were able to stick with us through the presentation. Really appreciate all your attention. We have this room booked until 1 o'clock, so if you want to take some time and work with your school teams, you're welcome to use this space and its availability. Most of the coordinators are still upstairs, so if you have questions, comments, or concerns specific to them, I can ask them to come down. Kevin, myself, and his team will be around for a while as well if we can answer any clarifying questions that you might have. Again, articulation is a very, very important step in our school systems process. We appreciate you being here. For those of you back at your schools, thank you for joining us. And folks, have a great day. Thank you.